Hello, and welcome to Demo Day. Thank you so much for joining us today to celebrate the graduation of our marvelous May cohort. Just a few short months ago, the May cohort was getting started in their maker's journey and getting to grips with basic Ruby and how to write tests. Now, they can build entire web applications from scratch in a language of their choice. So it is really quite impressive. I've had the pleasure of working with the May cohort over the past few weeks, and I've been blown away by how much they've achieved and learnt in their final project challenges. These teams really embrace new technical challenges, learning to use completely new languages and frameworks within under 2 weeks, and they blew my mind with their levels of teamwork and professionalism. It's difficult for experienced developers to plan, execute, and deliver projects on time, and these junior developers kept doing just that. Even when some teams felt misaligned, they got back together, restructured, and continued with a much more focused vision. And it was really inspiring for me to see, and I'm super proud of all the hard work they've done over the past few weeks. It's important to mention that these developers had just over a week and a half to come up with these ideas in a new team, and then they started planning, estimating tasks, coordinating their teams, and delivering their projects from scratch with little to no help at all from the technical coaches. So everything you see tonight is really all of their own hard work. And I think you'll agree that what they've come up with are some really fantastic final projects. So before we move on to the talks, I just want to let any prospective students know that after the presentations have finished, we will be doing a live Q&A. So if you're thinking of joining Makers, stick around until after the presentation and ask us your questions. So now to the exciting part, let's start with the presentations. Raising awareness of how we impact the environment in a positive way is something I think we can all get on board with. This first group has done just that with their superb project. So please welcome group Small Steps.
Hi there, everyone. Thanks very much for coming and welcome to Small Steps. That's the name of our team and the name of our product, a carbon emissions calculator for people who travel. The problem and the solution. So as we all know, we are in the middle of a climate emergency. We've seen the protests lobbying governments around the world to tackle climate change. We also know that day-to-day human activities cause carbon dioxide and other noxious gases to be released into the atmosphere. At Small Steps, we believe the solution relies on government intervention and a change in our behaviour as individuals. So the product, Small Steps, helps to raise awareness of the carbon emissions associated with travelling, as well as provide low-carbon alternatives and point users in the direction of sites that can help them to offset their carbon. So the team. First up, we have Jack Perrin. Jack's an engineering graduate from Bristol University. Myself, Nikita Douglas. I'm a former graduate operations analyst at Clio AI. Rich was previously a technical recruiter at Facebook. Nick was a former deputy technical manager at the London Palladium. Minzy, a concert violinist who has performed with the Philharmonia and BBC Scottish Orchestras. And Sophie, who was a student and practicing architect for 10 years before joining the May 2020 cohort, along with the rest of our team. I'm now going to pass over to Minzy, who's going to talk about our teamwork.
Thank you, Nikita. So, how do we work together as an environmentally friendly team? We follow the Agile process workflow. We set up a team charter at the beginning of the project, finding out each other's preference of working styles and working hours. Now, during this initial meeting, we also agree on team roles, such as Scrum Master, who runs the daily meetings, and a scribe who documents activities and daily work progress. We all held ourselves accountable for our roles, and we rotated the roles after each sprint. I believe this way will make us work very efficiently. During this project, we were working on a pattern of a 2-day sprint. Our daily ritual began with a morning stand-up, which starts with an emotional check-in to make sure each other are okay, followed by a quick planning session, and then we broke off into pairings. We will also have a short post-lunch check-in to report progress or raise any issue we might have encountered in the morning. and a retro at the end of the day for each pair to demonstrate their progress, discuss their blockers, and merge completed features into our master branch. Trello was our best friend throughout this project, as it provided a powerful visual aid for us to divide up tasks and keep track on our progress and blockers, as well as adding the convenience of sharing a library of URLs of learning resources just in a column of individual cards, as you can see on the screen here. Google also has been a major contributor to our project. Not only did we use their APIs, but also our admin decisions and process report documentations were all on a Google Drive. Therefore, all members of the team could get access to it easily when we need it. I believe Jack can walk us through all the intricate features and details behind our friendly user interface now.
Thanks, Mincy. So on the left-hand side, we have our front end, which was built with React. And on the right-hand side, we have our back end that was built with an Express server in a Node environment, which allowed us to write server-side code in JavaScript. So the user will enter their origin and destination and mode of transport. On submitting this data, we send the data from our front end to our back end via an internal API request, similar to sending an email from A to B. The back end then straight away forwards this data onto Google via an external API request. Google returns the distance between the origin and destination along with the duration, which is then placed in our missions calculator to calculate the missions for that journey. Our backend then returns the data to the front end via internal API request so that the emissions data can be rendered on screen. We're now going to pass over to Rich, who's going to talk about the challenges we faced.
Thanks, Jack. So it's the first time we worked with these new technologies and it's a steep learning curve for everyone. To solve this challenge, you made sure everyone understood the code that had been written by the team members at every stand-up before moving on to new features. This allowed everyone in the team to understand the code base. We delivered this project remotely, which was challenging at times. To solve the challenge, you made sure to document and diagram product ideas so everyone in the team had full visibility of how things worked. Make us emphasize the importance of test-driven development, which is writing tests before you write your code. We do subscribe to this mindset. However, when using new technologies during this project, we spiked our code, which meant we wrote our code first and tested after to make sure our code was solid. Our app is built using data from Google. We use this data to identify the distance traveled by a user. At times, it took over 24 hours for us to get the correct data. We overcame this through tenacity and continuous knowledge sharing. I will now pass you over to Nick, who will demo our app.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our website, Small Steps. It's designed to help people who travel find out the carbon footprint of their journey. We're going to start here with a car journey. We're going to set off from Makers Academy in central London. As you can see, we have Google Address Autocomplete set up in our form, which enables us to autofill any address. This actually works globally, starting with London and then Edinburgh here, so we're going for a long drive. The form will recognise partial addresses or postcode input. It will overcome small mistakes, which helps us get really precise results. You hit calculate emissions and you get a return here. You've got it in CO2 Gs and also in kettle boils, so it's a little bit more obvious to the layman. We then have the option to provide alternatives. So if you click on bus or train, it'll return the value for that form of transport. So you can see it's an eighth of the kettle boils. So obviously a train's a lot more efficient way to travel here. We've also got a link here at the bottom that allows you to offset your carbon with the Woodlands Trust. It's a nice easy interface, which is why we chose that one to include. Next we can enter a new journey, this time by plane. This currently supports domestic flights primarily. So let's have a look at the same journey from London Gatwick. As you can see, it'll take in the airport code, or you can just type it in as plain text. So we're putting in Edinburgh Airport here. Calculate emissions again, and you'll see this example flight equates to over 11,000 kettle boils, a hell of a lot of tea. Again, we click alternatives, click on train, and you can see that it's like 1/10 of the CO2. So this is really useful information as a user. you can see real-world example of your carbon burden and see alternatives that might help you make different choices. Thank you for listening. Our website is live on Heroku, and we'd love for you to give it a try.
Hooray! Thank you so much, Team Small Steps. Who doesn't love a good cup of tea or coffee? I love that idea and that concept. So much fun. And it's such an important idea as well, with obviously raising awareness of the environment and doing things in a positive way and still being able to travel. So thank you so much, team. Now let's move on to our next wonderful team of the evening. So learning to code can be somewhat challenging, okay, and that is putting it mildly. This next group, though, are ready to inspire a new generation of learners with their brilliant project, CodeQuest. So please welcome them. Take it away, Team CodeQuest, when you are ready.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and hello everyone. Thanks a lot for coming along today. So we are Team CodeQuest. We are not the usual platform game. Before I start off, I just want to introduce the team. So we have myself, my name's Chris. We've also got Anthony on the team, Benedetta, and Emanuele. I'm just going to go over the challenge that we had to kind of face to build our product. So we wanted to develop an application that was designed to help kids learn. We wanted to move away from the standard way of learning, that there's a wrong and a right way of doing things, and wanted to try and kind of promote exploration and problem solving instead. We wanted to add just a touch of coding in there to kind of develop that interest so that they might progress with it further in the future. But we also wanted to make something that would be reusable and engaging so that they would come back time and time again. So what did we make? We ended up landing with a game. We took inspiration from a lot of different places, but we went with something like Mario in the end, a platformer. And we're really happy that we made something that was easily scalable, so we can add some takeaway levels very, very quickly if we need to. By kind of wrapping the learning in a game, we feel like we've made something that's very engaging and fun for the user as well. And when I say that we've made the correct environment to learn, unlike other games, there is no point system, there are no times, and there's no way to really lose. So we promote that way to explore. I'm going to pass over to Anthony now. He's going to explain the game and show you a quick demo.
Cheers, Chris. So the game itself is super easy and intuitive, and this is how it works. Essentially, you enter commands into the terminal and use them to navigate your hero around the map. The goal is to figure out what order to enter the commands in so that the hero can move around and collect all the coins and therefore pass all the levels. I'll just break into a quick demo just to show you a little bit about how it works. This is the first level we see here. This is just where the player is introduced to the terminal and entering commands to move the hero across the map. It starts off fairly simple. It's just a single move and just a single coin to collect. Once you collect the coin, a new level is auto-generated, and now we're introducing a jump move. So you can see the player here doesn't quite make it, but that's fine. You can just hit back to start and modify your commands and try it again. We can see here when we combine a move right with a jump right, we're having a lot more success and we're getting a lot further. So by combining them, we basically clear the level. So those levels were basically for free, and now it gets a little bit more complicated. We need a different combination of moves in order to pass this next level. As Chris said, there's no way to lose or die. If you fall into a pit, the level just restarts. And that's kind of the point. You're not supposed to know exactly the right combination of commands beforehand. You're supposed to try things out, see how it works, and put the sequence together bit by bit. And that's basically how you complete the level. So a few attempts later, and we have our final solution. This is just a preview of the rest of the game. As you can see, as the game progresses, the complexity also increases. Our app is actually deployed and ready to be played right now. If you didn't catch that link, we'll drop it again right at the end. But just before that, I'm going to pass over to Benedetta, who's going to talk a little bit about the tech stack we used.
Thank you, Anthony. Actually, our app was developed using full stack JavaScript with a React front-end framework. React, for who's not familiar with it, is a popular framework for building websites with interactive components. Other than that, it's important to mention that we tested our code using Jest, a widely used JavaScript testing framework, and we deployed the app on Netlify. Challenges, very interesting subject. We have been facing many challenges as almost everything we were trying to build was completely new to us. If I have to pick one, I'd like to speak about us wanting to build an amazing React app and not knowing either how to handle platform game development nor React. It took some time, but we decided to tackle this problem one step at a time and in a specific order. So first of all, we reached our MVP with a small app with just a square drawn in a canvas moving right, left, and jumping. And we built it in vanilla JavaScript and HTML. Once we already had a far from being complete but working app, the other big challenge was to migrate everything we've done to React, following its peculiar structure. It took a lot of reading, studying, and trying, but I must say that we are really happy with the final result. In this slide, I would like to quickly show you our progress in a visual way, starting from where we were at the end of our MVP, arriving to what we achieved in the end. Now, Emanuele is going to speak to you about how we worked as a team.
Yep, thank you, Bene, and good afternoon, everybody. So as a team, we agreed to hold 3 daily stand-ups meeting and a morning stand-up meeting, check-in meeting in the afternoon, and retrospective meeting in the evening. During our meeting, we usually had an emotional check and talking about the daily steps we have to do in order to achieve our sprint and targets. We split this time between solo learning moments where we focus to improve our knowledge in order to become a better developer and help our team as much as possible. And then the team learning moments where we did paid session of code. We constantly stay in contact with chats, video calls for question, sharing of resources, video, and information. At the end of a working day, we usually merge our branches and following this operation all together, talking about other members' code in terms of sharing knowledge and be sure that all the members of the team will be confident with each part of the code. The main tool we used was Trello. Trello is a list-making application, and we use it for organize our agenda, set the sprints, and track our progress. So let's now talking about our goals. So as a group, we want to develop our soft and relation skills in a teamwork context because those are as important as tech skills. They must not be underestimated. Create code-guest web app and be proud about our last project and have fun during this project. As a developer, we wanted to obviously be a better developer than yesterday, be confident with JavaScript language and with the technologies related to it. And definitely merge our personal goal with the group goals to be as much efficient as possible as a team and grow as much as possible as a developer. So obviously continue having fun during the process. So at the end, you can find the link of our project below. Thank you all so much for your time from CodeGuest team and have fun with our web app.
Hooray! Thank you so much, Team CodeQuest. What a fun idea. I wish I had something like this, or I had this game perhaps when I first started to code, because it's awesome. So thank you, team. Moving on to the next group. This next group wanted to give consumers another way to get what they need with an alternative to some of the bigger online marketplaces. I'm sure from their team name, you'll get a hint about where they got their inspiration from. So please welcome Team Namazon. Take it away when you're ready, team.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ola, and we are Team Namazon. So our presentation today is broken into 4 sections. I'll be speaking about our problem and the solution we came up with. Victor will be talking about our team goals and some of our tech. Tim will walk you through how we worked as a team and some of the learnings from that. And Joshua will give you a demo into our final product. So before going into the problem, I just want to give everyone a bit of background into who Team Namazon is. So myself, I had a background in recruitment. Victor comes from the world of entrepreneurship. Tim comes from the cycling industry, and Josh was from the retail industry. So now into the problem. So we felt that there was a lack of connection between consumers and their local businesses. And we thought long and hard about how we can go about solving this problem. And after much planning and much debates, we came up with a solution that we felt would achieve this goal. And our solution was a simple web app, which simply connects local businesses with customers. So from a very high level point of view, Amazon allows local businesses to create a profile, list items, and customers can see those items listed and also go into those business profiles and get a view of where those businesses are located. I'm now going to pass it on to Victor, who's going to talk about our goals and our tech collectively.
Thank you, Ola. Yeah, so we actually spent a day and a half at the very beginning of the project, starting to build a safe environment for everyone, starting to set individual goals, and then turn them into group goals. And so we ended with those two main group goals as a team. The first one was build a team project from scratch using best practices. So that included a good test-driven development process, a dry code, a clean repository structure, etc. And the second one was use concepts we have learned at Makers to build with unfamiliar technologies, because of course we didn't have a clue what was React before. So we had to transfer our Ruby knowledge to build, for example, a server with JavaScript and Node. Going to the technology we use, so in terms of the tech stack, so for the front end, so the client side, we use React as a JavaScript framework, alongside with some CSS, HTML, and pure JavaScript. Regarding the backend and the server, we used Node environment alongside with Express package. And in terms of database, we used the NoSQL database provider MongoDB to make it work. I'm going to pass it to Tim, and he's going to cover our learnings and how did we learn.
Thank you, Victor. Yeah, in terms of how we worked, like a lot of teams here at Makers, we adopted the agile process for our morning stand-ups, our lunchtime check-ins, and our evening retros. And what this really meant was we just had space to air concerns, celebrate successes, problem solve together, and agree on what we were going to do for the next chunk of time. We also knocked up a nice Trello board, which came to govern our lives to an almost worrying extent, but it was a really good way to break down what at first seemed like an overwhelmingly large task into manageable chunks and to apportion responsibility for different pairs for each day, for each afternoon, for each morning, and break things down that way, really. There were inevitably a lot of challenges we faced, from which we took several important lessons. The first one probably is that everyone learns differently, and when you're learning something from scratch, it can be difficult to pair up and work in groups straight away. So it was important to give each other space to learn the way they wanted to learn, whether that was trawling through documents, reading a load of official documentation, tutorials, getting their hands dirty straight away. Yeah, just letting them do whatever they wanted. But at the same time, we made sure to regather at the end of each day, knowledge share, and to rotate pairs to make sure that, yeah, we were all on the same page. Possibly the biggest challenge was how hard it is to conceptualize a project and how hard to decide what you want it to look like when you're completely unfamiliar with the technology. In practice, that meant we had to constantly revise our goals and what we were aiming for. And even despite having the best intentions and some really good processes in place, we reached the end of the first week. A bit lost really and a bit struggling. We were kind of lacking direction and we're feeling a bit overwhelmed. Our solution was to regather at the start of the second week, bang our heads together, have a really good meeting and knock up some pretty natty mock-ups of what we wanted the website to look like. Having these enabled us to focus they focused our group, helped us work out what we were going to build, and helped us deliver a fully functioning full stack app by the end of the week, which Josh is going to demo for you now.
Cheers, Tim. So I'll be giving you a quick walkthrough on how our web app works. So here we have the landing page with two options. First is for a business, and the other is for a customer. First, I'll show you how a business uses our site before moving on to the customer experience. So a business is redirected to a form that takes details of a name, description, and address in the form of a postcode. And after creating a profile, businesses are redirected to product listing. This includes a title, description, and a price. So I'm just listing something here, and then we'll go ahead and list another product as well. So these products are viewable on the business page, and it's a simple and easy, quick way to start listing products. So Now, let me show you how a customer interacts with our site by navigating back to the landing page. So on the user homepage, we currently see a list of all items, and they're the products I just added. Each item links to the seller's profile. This includes a map showing you where the business is located and other products the business has for sale. So I like this product, but the shop's a little bit far out from me. Let's see what else is out there. Navigating back to the products page, we can use the search bar to find similar products and sort by price, ascending or descending order. So I found the similar product that I want at a much more convenient price and location. So this is the app in its current state. What is the future of Amazon? Well, in Amazon 2.0, there are things in the project we obviously wanted to add, including authentication for businesses, reserving items, payment, as well as tweaking user interface. We'll hope to get to these in the future. So we've been Amazon. Thanks for watching. And yeah, all the best.
Hooray! Thank you so much, Team Namson. That was awesome. Great idea, and yeah, refreshing to see something that's promoting local businesses, which is super important, especially now that like high streets are facing so much competition with online. So thank you for tackling that. So let's move on to our final group of this evening. This next group are ready to show you a whole new way of writing code with their awesome take on learning. Please welcome our final team. It's Team Invincible. When you're ready, please take it away.
Thanks, Katerina. So hi guys, we are Team Invincible and we are super excited to show you our presentation on our app which follows the story of one Vim Bishop. My name's Sophie and I was a pastry chef before Makers. The rest of the team is made up of Katie, who worked in the coffee industry, Al, who is a public cloud consultant, Ray, who is an ex-PhD student, Tristan, who worked in the medical devices industry, and Nadine, who's a professional dancer. So we're quite a diverse bunch. The problem that our app is trying to solve is related to Vim. Vim is the ubiquitous text editor, and we found ourselves asking questions like, how do I even navigate in here? How do I exit? Does anyone know? So the solution we found was an educational game that is completely accessible, regardless of coding ability. Later on, Tristan will talk a bit more about the specifics, but we wanted to make a way of practicing the not so intuitive Vim commands whilst having fun. I'll be passing over to Katie, who will talk to you about approach and processes.
Thanks, Soph. So we kicked off our project by writing our team charter, which we stuck to religiously throughout the whole project. It outlined our group and personal goals, our expectations for each other, and focused heavily on the well-being of our team. This focus guided us throughout the project to ensure we were working cohesively in a supportive environment. We stuck to agile practices, role cycling, and swapping pair partners each day to keep the information flowing throughout the group. So our team of 6 is the largest team that we'd worked in so far, so knowledge sharing to keep everybody in the loop was a top priority for us. We would review and demo each pair's code before merging it into the main project, and made sure to leave plenty of time at the end of each day's retro, so we were all on the same page and ready to go in the morning. Now I'm going to pass you over to Ray, who's going to talk us through the tech stack.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. So we've got a front and a back end split. And kind of why have we done that? Partly because the front end is just playing the game. We've got a back end that's going to hold passive data only, so kind of a level layout. This makes it easier to do merges and work, because then there's no chance of people working on the front end affecting the back end. And also, potentially in the future, we can have multiple themes on the front end using the same back end level data, which would be quite interesting to do. There's a lot of pictures and images and names about a text we've used. If you recognize them, you already know them, but I'm just going to pick out one, talk about a little bit more. It's going to be React, which is our front end framework. An interesting thing about React is that when the data around the component changes, it re-renders that component. So let's say the player, if the position of the player changes, it will redisplay the player on the screen for you. And this means that we don't have a game loop that updates the screen each time, so you can have it as a live thing. Making a game without a game loop is quite interesting. I'll pass on to Al, who's going to actually talk about the challenges we've had in implementing this tech stack and the solutions we used.
Great, thanks, Ray. The main challenge that we faced on this project was working with technology that was new to us. We all had a decent base knowledge of JavaScript, but React was a bit of a mystery to everyone, really. And what this meant was that in our initial stand-ups, when we were trying to organize pairs, estimate timeframes to complete tasks, and evaluate who was comfortable doing what, we struggled to be as accurate as we probably would have liked. So tasks often took a little bit longer than we planned, meaning that we had to adapt and amend our plans accordingly. We also decided on a pretty major refactor of our code, which is essentially restructuring our code without changing its external behavior. We did that on Monday morning of our second week, introducing Redux to manage our application state. And there was a big concern that this could have caused a lot of disruption, but as our front end and back end were well separated, as Ray mentioned, one pair was able to complete the work in half a day, and everything was working perfectly again by that lunchtime. We overcame all of the challenges really that were presented to us really well, with regular stand-ups to run through all aspects of our code. We shared videos, we shared articles, blogs that we came across that would help demystify certain topics. We also took turns as scribe to write the day's events in a wiki, which meant that they needed to understand what each pair had done, and was a great way to knowledge share and ensure we had a great team cohesion. Any unfamiliar bugs were either sorted or explained as a team. And most importantly, we made sure everyone was happy, motivated and clear before we cleared any tickets and moved on to any new features. I'll now pass over to Nadine to talk about future-proofing.
Thank you, Al. For us, one of the most important things was that our code is fully scalable and adaptable. Vim has a lot of commands, as some of you might know, and as it would have been too much to implement all of them within a mere of 8 to 9 short days, we tried to focus just on the most important ones for our MVP. As a team that worked really well together, though, we would actually love to keep working on it and to develop it further. And with scalable code, designing and adding new levels and commands should take a fraction of the time it did so far. For example, we'd like to practice the dd command to delete objects in front of us, and we'd also love to add a database to save the user's position and the level reached. I'm now going to pass on to past Tristan, who's going to do a short demo with you.
Welcome to Vim Bishop's Bike Adventures. This is our home screen. If I click Start Game, this then triggers the API request to the backend, and based on the information it receives, the front end will render the different tiles. Now, first thing to point out is this text box on the left, which gives a brief description of the aim of our game, which is that Vim has just been for a haircut, to come outside to cycle home, but he can't find his bike. Now, typically in these games, you'd use arrow keys to navigate. You look at the bottom left, I'm trying to do that now, but Vim doesn't move, because the navigational keys in Vim are different. So we go to this prompt here and click colon, brings up a text box, and click H and enter. It shows me the navigational commands for Vim. So if I get rid of this, I can now use HJK now to navigate around our map. Now, as you can see, Vim's blocked by certain tiles. He can also interact with people who help him on his quest to find his bike. Now, if I come to the end of this path, it then immediately renders level 2. Now, in level 2, we've built on the Vim commands. So I just go on H again. As you can see, we've now got 2 new commands, which are W and B, which should mean to the beginning of the next word or beginning of previous word. So if I then clear this and use W, I can then get over these obstacles, and B again to get over those obstacles. Then if I use colon and Q, which is the command in Vim to quit, it brings me back to the home screen. And those are the first 2 levels of Vim Bishop's Bike Adventures.
Thank you, past Tristan. Now back to the future.
Welcome to Vim Bishop's Bike Adventures.
Again. Sorry, Tristan. So we have been Vimvincible presenting Vim Bishop's Bike Adventures. You can find it on vimvincible.net/app. Thank you for tuning in.
Hooray! Thank you so much, Team Vimvincible. What an awesome game. Forgot to turn on my camera. Sorry about that. My mentors, when I first started coding, basically forced me to learn Vim and told me I wasn't allowed to use any other text editor, which was quite the learning experience. I really wish I had something like this awesome game to make it fun and exciting for me at that time. So thank you for that it will surely inspire lots of new budding coders who want to use Vim and experiment with it. I just want to say thank you so much to all of the teams from today. Let's just take a moment to celebrate the marvelous May cohort and all of their hard work and amazing final projects. So thanks again, May, and well done. Now we're going to have a live Q&A. So for any prospective students thinking of joining Makers, please stick around and ask us your questions. I'm going to pass over to Hayley now, who will take it from here. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Well, thanks, Katerina, and hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this extremely warm day today. So as Katerina said, the next section of today's event is really if you're thinking of applying to Makers and you'd like to ask some questions to some of our team, then we're here to kind of answer any questions to help you make your choice if we're the right place for you to come and study. So Kat's going to join us and she can answer any questions around the curriculum or what it's like in the kind of day-to-day remote learning environment. And then we've also got Joe joining us, who's one of the course managers. He can let you know about admissions and all sorts of different bits and pieces about the course. So the way that you can submit a question if you're a prospective student is via the little Q&A panel below. It's different to the chat one. So if anyone's got a question at all, please take a minute now and you can submit your questions there. I guess while you guys are maybe thinking of your questions or to get the ball rolling, Joe, in terms of how stuff is for when people like first apply to the course, can you just tell us a little bit about that process if people are kind of new to Makers? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I am. Classic. And I'm getting a call, so I'm just going to quit the incoming call thing. The application process is fairly simple, and depending if you're a complete beginner or if you've sort of dabbled in coding, it can, I'd say if you're a complete beginner, take anywhere between about 4 and 6 weeks in total in terms of sort of the preparation and things needed. But if you've sort of dabbled in things like that, I reckon you'd be able to do it in about 2 to 4 weeks. That sort of preparation that I just mentioned is sort of 2 prerequisites that we have in order to be ready for a pairing session with us. And they're just going through Code Academy, which I'm sure most of you will have come across. We do it in Ruby for many different reasons, but a great one to start on and build a good foundation. There's a Code Academy 10-hour course on there, and then followed by Code Wars, which complements it really well. You're sort of building your problem-solving logic there, and that's something that we're really looking for. Second thing would be sort of good communication and saying your thoughts and things out loud, which can really help for the pairing session. We call it a pairing session because we'll be pairing with somebody from the admissions team. And when you get to that stage, we've got lots of different things that you can practice and come along to different workshops and practice sessions. So the key is to be open with us, and we can help you to be as prepared as we can for taking on a pairing session. We say to have a pairing session around 2-3 weeks before the cohort that you want to join. So just bear that in mind before booking one in.
Cool, thanks so much, Joe. I'm just going to let a couple more questions come in. So we've got a few already, which we'll get to in a second. I just wanted to ask Katerina as well, in terms of how the actual workshops are being run now we're remote. Could you tell us a little bit about the format and what's that like as a learner?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we do all of our workshops on Zoom, and we're using like online tools to do things like diagramming. We use like Zoom to, like, sometimes if we want to have just like a whiteboard kind of discussion, we'll discuss in like a chat, or we'll have like an online like whiteboarding session. We can do basically everything that we were doing on a whiteboard, but digitally using like digital tools. It's also kind of nice as well, because sometimes with the whiteboard, like I can't draw, I'm terrible. So the digital tools at least mean that my diagrams are looking very proper, which is nice. And then they're basic. It's interesting because the switch to remote has obviously been like a new learning experience for everyone. But in terms of like the way I've like reworked the workshops, the content is all exactly the same. It's just done like over video call instead of me standing in front of the room. And in terms of like the interactivity, it's all exactly the same. We have also breakout rooms on Zoom, which is a great feature. So sometimes we'll break people into smaller groups so they can work together and diagram together. It's quite powerful, and obviously you can't really work as a huge group with some of the more difficult programming concepts. And so breakout rooms means that we can split people into very small groups of 2 to 3 or however many we want, and then I can like pop in, see how people are getting on, give them feedback. So yeah, it's really interesting, and I actually really enjoy teaching remote and have enjoyed that experience. Does that answer your question, Hayley?
It does. Thank you, Katerina.
Hey, sorry, that was a long one.
It's nice to get an overview of like, you know, the kind of like daily experience. So yeah, that's great. Thanks. Cool. Okay, so we've had some questions coming in. So thanks everyone who's submitted them. Also, just if you see a question that is the same one that you wanted to ask, you can just click the little thumbs up button and it'll move that to the top, just so we get like the kind of highest priority ones answered first. Cool, so for now I'll just go in order. The first question is asking, what's the employment rate after finishing the course, especially now with COVID-19? Yeah, that's a great question and something that we get asked a lot of the time. So with the coronavirus situation, we definitely saw a drop in employment. Yeah, like I think most companies were going through a period of just figuring out what was going on. So being completely honest, in the kind of like I'd say depths of lockdown, when you know everything was shut down, the rate was really low. We only saw maybe 1 or 2 like in a week being employed. But since lockdown's been eased, we've seen a massive uptake again. Obviously, it's not back to the normal levels, but yeah, it's definitely recovering for the moment. In terms of an actual number, I don't know what like the current sort of like percentage would be, but the last time we measured during like kind of like normal business, you know, running, the rate was 89% hired within 6 months of completing the course. Obviously that's factoring in that not everyone wants to get a job as a developer. Some people want to maybe start their own businesses, but that's the kind of rate when it's like business as usual. So hopefully that gives you a balanced answer there. But please let us know if you have any more questions around that. Cool. So the next one is asking, when do you expect your offices to open up again, or will remote learning be the new normal going forward? Joe, have you heard anything around that at all?
Yeah, again, it's a tricky one to answer, and very hard at the moment to do a concrete answer. But we're sort of aiming for potentially around November time, and we're sort of deciding what will that look like. Whether it will be there's so much sort of to consider, and so many people's what works best for so many different people. But the main thing is, will it be safe enough? So what can we do to make it 100% safe? Whether it's a one-off on-site cohort, whether it's more of a drop-in place. Lots of different ideas are going around at the moment, but the potential aim of being around November time for an on-site offering that will run alongside the remote course. As Katerina said, the remote course has been fantastic, and I think will be a strong option for a while. But for those people who potentially don't have a good working from home environment, then we want to cater to those too. And so, as I said, yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, some sort of remote on-site offering around November time.
Cool, thanks, Joe. Yeah, one thing I think to add to that is, I know a lot of work's been done from our team, like behind the scenes. They've been kind of asking the staff what they feel comfortable with, asking some prospective students what they feel comfortable with, and current students. So yeah, we're trying to do as much work as we can to make sure as many people feel as safe as possible before kind of making a concrete decision. Most announcements of kind of general like company-wide things like that will appear on our blog or in our newsletter. So if you've not seen either of those before, definitely subscribe. Cool, lovely stuff. So the next one, Kat, I'm going to ask you this one. It's from Hannah. She's asking, are people proficient enough after completing the course in the programming languages to go into a career/job in tech?
Yes, it is amazing. It's an amazing thing that we have, that the tech industry has like such high demand that you can go from pretty much like zero to then after kind of 4 to 6 months getting a role. Obviously, that being said, like our students work really, really hard throughout the course. And, it is a case of like you have to do like all of the things on the pre-course, you have to do all of the things on site and engage with the course as we would expect. But if you're doing all of those things, if you're making progress, if you're engaging with the course as we expect, and if you're job hunting also with the support of our careers team and following their guidelines, then yes, you can get a job in tech. And it is amazing. It's probably like it's the thing that inspires me and like the thing that I really enjoy seeing. Obviously, I don't think I said this before, but I'm a technical coach at Maker, so I work with all of the developers on site, coaching them and helping them on their coding journey. So it's lovely to see people go from like not knowing very much to then actually getting roles and excelling in those roles as well.
Thanks, Kat. This one's kind of a follow-up, I guess, to that question. So I'm going to keep with you for now, if that's okay. Delphine is asking, what was the biggest challenge for students, and what's the best way to navigate those challenges?
Yeah, this is a really good question as well. So what is the biggest challenge for students? So at Makers, we do something called self-led learning, and this is quite different from normal education and can be quite difficult and challenging for people. So in a normal university or school, like you would have just had a teacher and they're kind of talking at you and giving you tasks. Whereas at Makers, we really encourage you to assess yourself, and part of like the course is helping you self-assess and tailoring the course to like your own needs. Like we do have a very set curriculum for each week, but we also, everyone learns at different levels, and that's normal. Some people might come with some Ruby experience, some people might struggle with test-driven development, and other people might find it really easy. And so I think the really powerful thing that we do is teach you to find things for yourself and become resourceful and self-sufficient. And this means that after the course, in your tech role, you can continue doing those things, because ultimately it's not really about the 3-month course. It's about learning how to learn and learning these key developer skills, because ultimately tech is changing all the time and always evolving. So you need to be able to be self-sufficient, to find what you need and to keep it in your toolkit. And that's the really powerful thing we do at Makers. And I think it's challenging for people to kind of adapt to that initially, and also to adapt to the fact that it is an intensive course. Like we do expose you to so much, but it blows my mind. Like you've seen the final projects now. It blows my mind like how much people kind of soak up in that kind of pre-course and then the 3-month course, and it is incredible, but it is challenging. That everyone can do it. I firmly believe that, having seen like many people graduate and having worked with like hundreds of developers now. I think that was like mainly what I wanted to say. I think that, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I think that's that gives a really good idea. Like I think so many people at the start of the course have that same kind of perspective, like, am I going to be good enough to get a job? It seems like so not tangible, but some of the developers who you saw graduating today, a lot of them came to an event that we run at the start of the course called Code Accelerator, which is something to kind of like build up your coding confidence, and seeing the kind of transition from that, which was kind of at the start of lockdown when they would have been attending that, to now they finished the course and, they're applying for jobs, and they're at the same level as other developers who we see go into jobs. It really kind of, it's really inspiring. So yeah, I think everyone has that self-doubt that they might not be able to, but you will. Cool. So the next one is a question from Danny asking, they're likely to take the course in about 6 months' time. Besides the minimum prep, what else do you recommend to maximize their progress in their own time? Just keep learning Ruby or anything else? Joe, do you have any suggestions for that one?
Yeah, I think there's a good balance you could do of things that you need to do for makers. On that stage, we have, as I said, on every Thursday, we sort of meet up for a pair programming session. It's quite casual. You get to meet some other people who will be joining some cohorts. You get to go through some challenges together. I'd keep attending those every now and again when you could. Keep ticking over on those skills that we're looking for, but also balance it with something that you're really interested, you're really sort of passionate about. Try and find a little project that you wanted to build, or something similar to that, and create sort of a little brief of what you want to achieve. It all helps, and if you're enjoying it, you're going to want to do it. You're going to want to wake up and do it, and you're going to keep focused on it. So definitely trying to balance what's necessary to get onto makers and what's going to help you out with that. I suppose one last thing would be read some of the blogs about the and seeing what type of things that they've been working on throughout their weeks, and maybe you could be one step ahead. So that when you're coming up to the pre-course, it's not suddenly alien to you, and you can sort of fly through.
Cool, thank you so much, Joe. Sorry, I think your video froze, but I could hear everything you were saying. So hopefully that answered the question. Cool. There was a final one that I wanted to ask Kat about just before she heads off. I think there's a cohort party that you need to join. So bear with me. I'm just gonna find the last question for you. Okay, so it was asking why we still focus on JavaScript. Oh, it's been upvoted, there we go. So yeah, the question is asking, JavaScript is more popular than Ruby. So why do we still stick to Ruby for the course rather than following industry trends? Interesting. Kat, yeah, what do you think about that?
This is such a great question. I am loving these questions. So we do both. We do Ruby and JavaScript. This is really interesting for me personally because I started off my coding journey trying to learn JavaScript, and I had a really, really, really hard time. That being said, it doesn't mean it can't be done. Of course it can be done. But there are some languages that are just more beginner friendly. Ruby, Python. We're really language agnostic. The languages, they're just the vehicle that we're using to get you towards where we want you to get to, which is this whole learning how to learn, being self-sufficient, empowering you as a developer. That being said, Ruby is super friendly as a beginner language. That's why we start off with it early on in the course. In weeks 5, 6, and 7, mainly week 5 and 7, we do JavaScript, and in week 6 as well, you can choose whether you want to continue with JavaScript or to do some Ruby. And then, of course, in the final projects, a lot of teams that you saw tonight were using kind of JavaScript and React in their front end. So it's coming back, it like recurs throughout the course, and you can kind of do more of it if you want to. So yeah, we are kind of, like I said, using the languages as the vehicle to get you where you want to go. But we do also, like, our 2 main languages are Ruby and JavaScript. So I hope that answers your question.
Cool, that's great. Thanks so much, Kat, and thanks so much for joining us for the call. If you've got any other curriculum-based questions, I'm sure me and Joe can answer them as well. But yeah, congratulations to the cohort. Send them our best wishes. Cool. Okay, so
thanks everyone. Bye.
See you later. Cool. Okay, so the next question we have is from Daniel asking, what are the typical roles that graduates get? So I had a sneak peek at the recent hires kind of in preparation for this question. So the vast majority of people who join the course want to become a software developer. So you'll see lots of different variations on the kind of like job title of software developer. It might be software engineer, some of the ones that we've recently had: operations engineer, junior front-end developer, just yeah, all sorts of things. We occasionally get students going into DevOps roles. That's becoming a little bit more popular at the moment, but generally speaking, people are aiming to go into straight up kind of like software engineering roles. That said, people have previously finished the course and just use it to upskill in their previous role, or to kind of like start their own business, things like that. There's nothing glaringly obvious that I'm missing that you can think of, is there, Joe?
No, I don't think so. I think people sometimes come into the course thinking, oh, I really want to be a front-end developer. That's what I want to do. I want to be on the front design thing. And then they come onto the course, and because we cover so many different things, they start realizing, hang on a minute, I really liked working out why this whole thing was working. What's all the backbone behind it? So you never know unless you try. And it may sort of, your predictions may be wrong. It quite often happens.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, that's definitely true. I think a lot of people do go in thinking about front end more. I think it's because like HTML courses and things, like there's a lot of those that are quite tangible. But yeah, like it's interesting to see how it changes like throughout the course. Cool. So the next question is from Joseph, slightly different angle. He's asking about the holistic extras that we do at Makers. So for those of you who are less familiar with us, we run a whole emotional intelligence curriculum alongside the coding course. So it's basically learning skills like, how to work with people with different working styles and personality types. So it's still effective. Setting boundaries with your work, all that kind of thing, as well as a lot of really nice well-being stuff, like daily meditation, yoga twice a week for staff and students. So yeah, there's a lot of fun extras. So Joe's asking, what are some of our favorite extras as part of the scheme? Joe, I'm going to let you answer this one.
I think it's some of the stuff that us staff get to do. Dana not only does workshops on feedback and empathy for all of the students, but we get to get the benefit of it as well. And so it's amazing what it can do for a team. Kind of firsthand, we've experienced that. But I worked on the partnerships team here for about 2 years, and it was all these additional skills that they were really interested in. It's what always sparked the conversation. What got their attention was how well these people worked in teams, having left Makers, and seeing that we actually did this emotional intelligence curriculum alongside it. They loved that, and people will leave Makers with a technical bar, but it's these other things that really elevate them in the industry.
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely agree with that. We kind of have this tagline saying, be a maker. Like, what is it to be a maker that's different from just a software developer? And I think a lot of the time, like where companies come to us, it's because of those extra things that people can bring to a team. So yeah, if you've not had a look, there's lots of information about the holistic side of things on our blog. So definitely have a read to learn more about that. Cool. So the next question is from Rihanna. She is asking, other than the final group projects, do we work in many other do we work on any other personal / team projects? Yes, you do. So the full curriculum kind of breakdown, well, as idea of it is in our FAQs if you want to kind of see a week by week breakdown. But essentially, the first part of the course, like the first, I think it's 6 weeks, you tend to be working in pairs most days, or at least for part of the day. So just you and one other person. But the second half of the course is all group work. So I think there's maybe 3 major projects that you do, one of them being your final project, and then 2 others before that, which all are kind of similar format, but obviously working in bigger groups. So As you can probably tell through a few of the answers, like a lot of the course is based around building like not only your development skills, but like the team working skills, working directly with other developers, that kind of thing. Hopefully with the idea that when you go into your first role or whatever, you're used to working with other people rather than just like coding on your own. So yeah, I'd say that's a really, really cool part of the course. Okay. So next question we've got is from Max. He's asking, does the course focus on coding within a certain industry? If I, sorry, if I was interested in the video gaming industry, etc., would this course give me industry-specific skills? Joe, I'm gonna hand that over to you because it's a tough one.
Sure, thanks, Max. A little bit on what Katerina was saying. We have a few sort of main aims of the course, being able to use any language, pick up any technology, frameworks, to be able to solve any problem and to work in any team. And so and as we were saying about which roles people go into, you can see that it's quite broad and we cover quite a large spectrum. And then when it comes to sort of the more final projects and things, there's a lot more chance to make that a bit more specific. So some people start building games and things like that. But overall, you're going to be set up with these foundational skills that will be able to put you into any industry. So rather than sort of favoring a certain industry. And it's seen from our alumni that really shows it's so varied and broad of what people actually go into. I will say that the video gaming industry is particularly very difficult to get into. But again, as we were saying, of when you come in and try different things, I think you'd be surprised about what is it about that you really like, and is there a certain industry or a certain job where I can do that even more? And I think that will become more clear to you when you're on the course.
Cool, thanks so much. Hopefully that answers your question, Max. So the next question we have is asking, when will we be opening up apprenticeships again? So apprenticeships is open. You can apply, well, you can register your interest to join the apprenticeship program. The reason that we don't list it on our website currently is because we have to wait for opportunities like as and when they come up. Joe, is there anything that people can do at the moment, or like how will they receive the information about things when they do come up?
Yeah, there's a page on our website where you can sort of register to be updated on when the apprenticeship will open again. So I'll share the link in the chat for that. But it's fairly the same preparation work as it is for the academy. So working through Code Academy, getting familiar with Ruby syntax, moving on to Code Wars, getting the problem-solving logic and things like that. So that when the applications do open for apprenticeships, you're sort of ready to go. But we run them every 3 months rather than 1 month for compared to the boot camp. So be prepared to potentially wait a month or two for them to be back open.
Cool, thanks so much, Joe. So we've got a question from Jay Holland asking, are there any options for part-time study? I believe you're trialing this at the moment with a group. Yeah, so we are currently running a trial. The applications for that one are currently closed. But the situation with the part-time course is it's a totally new thing for us. Obviously, kind of like in the wake of coronavirus and you know, a couple of different factors, we're trying a few new things. So the part-time course is still a trial. So what we're looking to do is to run that one kind of in its completion, kind of gather feedback from our coaches to see how they think it went, as well as obviously the people who are on the course before opening up new dates for it. Because the way that we've set it up now, it's in a way that we hope is the right way for learners, and we think it is based on you know, the coach's different experience, but we could be wrong. There could be all sorts of different things that we've not even thought of yet. So we'll wait to get the feedback from that before opening up new opportunities for part-time learning. Cool, so this one's another one for you, Joe. Sorry, I'm kind of sending them all your way. So Jamie's asking, so the 10 hours on Code Academy, so there's 10 hours on Code Academy and then we apply. The second resource was Code Wars. Do you have recommendations for this, please? So maybe like the level on Code Wars that they're supposed to do and that kind of thing.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. It'd be good to clarify on this a bit more. Yeah, you're right. The 10 hours on Code Academy to start off with, and then moving on to Code Wars. They vary the levels of difficulty, and they call them katas on Code Wars. So we say to go through kata level 8 and 7. You can go on to 6 if you're challenging yourself, if you've got a bit more time, but it's the knowledge you'll gain that is needed will be from level 8 and 7. We recommend getting a score of about 150 on there. I think it's called honor score. So if you get to that point, you're good to go, ready to book in a pairing session. But if you wanted to, you could submit an application before that as you're working through it. If you do that, you're sort of on our system, so it can help us sort of track you. But you'll also get automatic emails sent to you, sort of advice and prompts and different things like that. So it may help if you want it to be sort of extra organized. I'd say submit an application when you've completed Code Academy and you're coming onto Code Wars. And when you get to that stage, we'll have a bit more of a personal conversation. We'll have a phone call maybe, and we'll talk to you about some of the events that we've got that will be really helpful to you, and try and have a bit more sort of a personal approach to go at your speed, basically. Final thing I suppose I'll say is that I've got quite a good application brochure on a download. So I'm very happy to send that to anybody who's interested. So I'll post my email in here and drop me a message and I'll send it out to you. It structures a timeline that's quite good, and tells you everything that you need to have in preparation for the application, the interview, and the pre-course. So yeah, anyone can drop me a message.
Cool, thanks
there it is.
so much. Yeah, just take a look in the chat if you want to grab Joe's email. Cool, so the next one was unfortunately a question for the students. So I'm going to skip over that one if that's okay. And then we have the final question from Benjamin. Okay, so they're asking, I've spoken to a previous Maker student in my company who said he would put in 50 to 60 hours a week. He had some previous tech experience. Given remote learning, is it feasible that some students need to work even harder to complete the course than before COVID? Should you make sure to be well prepared beforehand to limit the huge amount of time spent learning? I understand this varies on an individual basis. So thank you for your question, Benjamin. There's a couple of things there, so let's try to kind of get through them one by one. So in terms of if you have to work harder on the course itself now that it's remote, the whole remote course has kind of been designed to be delivered in the same way as the on-site course, and for the experience to be the same as the on-site course. So in terms of like, do you need to work harder because of the delivery style? No, I don't think you do. The makers who are on the course now, who we've seen, you know, their final projects are the same standard as the makers who did the remote course. So if that's kind of what the question is aimed at in terms of because of like the delivery being remote, that I don't think you do. But with the second part of the question, do you need to be well prepared beforehand to limit the amount of learning time? I think that's an interesting question, because as a software developer, your learning time is going to be from now until the rest of your life, basically. So I guess obviously the more work that you do beforehand, like any work you do is a benefit, and if any extra side projects or you know, there's the resources that we've recommended, but there's a bunch of other stuff out there. There's Free Code Camp is really good. A website called Exorcism, am I right, Joe? Exorcism, yeah. Like loads of meetups who are online, all that kind of thing. Anything additional that you do is definitely going to help. And obviously in terms of the job market, yeah, like if you've been learning a different language on the side, or as I say, building your portfolio in other ways, like that will definitely add to it. But I don't think yeah, being a remote student kind of like disadvantages you in any way. Is there anything at all that you'd add to that, Joe, or anything different that you'd say?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And on the sort of hours that you mentioned there, Benjamin, the pre-course is about 20-25 hours. So that's sort of easing you into it, so that everyone's sort of at that same level when they start. But the full-time training is sort of the more compulsory bit is sort of 9 till 5, and that's the same as the on-site as it is for the remote. So the amount of hours that you are, I suppose, expected to do has remained the same and things like that, and it's slightly less than the 50 to 60, but you really get out what you put in. And so this person that's put in 50 to 60 hours, that's fantastic, and they're going to really accelerate themselves even more. And we have weekend challenges as well. Again, that you don't have to do them. We don't expect you to do everything 7 days a week, but they're there if you want to. So some weeks you may want to take advantage of that. And again, they're going to really boost you. So there's a few different workshops, lunchtime talks, even after the course. There's upskilling and things like that. And if you're going to commit and you're going to put your time into it, you're going to massively pay off. But yeah, so I'll add that.
Cool, thanks so much. So hopefully that answered your question, and thanks to everyone who submitted questions today. So we're going to round up now. There's a last couple of things that I just wanted to share with you before we love you and leave you. So we've mentioned a couple of times today that we run a group called Code Accelerator. As we said, this is it's a coding group. We meet up maybe once every around 2 weeks, obviously via Zoom. And if you've been practicing kind of like the recommended resources and you want to kind of like just like improve your confidence, or maybe start practicing pair programming, which you probably haven't tried yet, we practice like it's a bit of an introduction into doing those things. So if you look on our Eventbrite or on the community page of our website and you want to get involved, please do come along to those. It's a lot of fun, and it's kind of like welcoming you into the Makers community before you get started. And the staff run there, and loads of other new students to help kind of like answer questions and kind of get prepared before you join us as a full-time student, hopefully. And we're also going to be running an open day in September, again, obviously online. And it's a little bit different to events that we've done before. So at that event, you'll meet one person from each of our teams. So another one of our coaches, someone from our partnerships team, the admissions team, the careers coaches who their job is to kind of help students to upskill in terms of like getting their CV ready, making sure they're like prepped for interviews, like loads of really, really valuable skills. So definitely come along to that to kind of like meet more members of the team, and there'll be a Q&A section there as well. So I think, Joe, you've dropped the links there. Amazing. Thanks so much. I was going to scrabble around to try and do it myself just then. But yeah, that's everything. So thanks everyone for joining us. Please enjoy what's left of the sun, except for if you're in Wales like Joe where it's raining. And yeah, we hope to see you at Makers really soon. Okay, thanks so much everyone. All right, bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye.